Right now we are in Forest Park with Bakul Foundation. Like every other pandals where Ganesh Chaturthi has been celebrated, here it has been celebrated in a very unique and in a very nice way actually. They have been celebrating it in both spiritual and environmentalist way. As you can see right behind me, the Lord Ganesha over here is made out of a tree trunk. Epic level of creativity and sensitivity towards nature. Let's go and ask these people what they have to say about this brilliant idea they have about making a environment friendly Ganesh Chaturthi.
Lord Sri Ganesh, you know, he symbolizes the unity of all creation. I mean, an elephant head and a human body, right? Together, it suggests that, the animal world and the human world are all interconnected, right? So, by nature itself, Lord Ganesh represents that. And so, we thought that why not the appropriate way to worship him would be to worship him in the form of a tree, and not really an idol which is filled with chemicals and which creates pollution. But more importantly, also, what Bakul Foundation has been doing for the past many years is promoting the idea of a cultural relationship with trees, because we feel that it is, earlier we had this relationship. So we worship trees. We started with that, then we started worshipping gods in trees, by placing idols there. But then now we have put the temples out separate from the trees. So what has happened then is we started looking at trees as not as uh, places of worship, but as things that give some utility or that are a nuisance. And so we cut them down. So I think the best way, and we all know about the environmental crisis, the best way to battle it is to go back to, seeing divinity in trees and worshipping trees. An environmentalist approach is essentially also a spiritual approach, because if you start seeing the spirit in all creation, then you can't go and cut them down, right? You can't cut down the trees in that case, because then you feel that a part of you is going when you cut down the trees, and that is very essential, because we don't realize that connection actually, because when we cut down the trees we are actually endangering our own lives. Everyone understands that, but we don't see it in the narrow sense. So if we want nature to sustain us, then we need to think of new ways of, we need to go back to the old ways of looking at nature. No, exactly. That is unfortunately, see, all our aspirations unfortunately are uneco-friendly. For example, as a child you aspire that kab mein cycle, when will I leave a cycle and start riding a two-wheeler, which is more eco-friendly, obviously a cycle. When I start riding a two-wheeler, my aspiration is how I can ride a super bike, which is more fuel guzzling, right? When I have a bike, then I think about a four-wheeler. When I have a four-wheeler, I think of a four-wheeler which again guzzles more petrol, more fancy car, which is actually, so our aspirations are very eco-friendly. Okay, so similarly, the same translates to our celebration of festivals like Ganesh Puja, because we want to show off. We want to show off wealth. Okay, so how do you show off? Now, if my pendal or my Ganesh Murti is bigger than yours, okay, and it is all about extravagance, which ultimately goes to polluting more. If an elephant, if you cannot listen to a person with an elephantine head, because an elephantine head means an elephantine memory. An elephant's memory is supposed to be huge, right? So that means the wisdom of ages is contained inside Lord Sri Ganesh. So if you want, if you actually worship me, then please worship the things that I stand for.
The inspiration is basically environment friendly, to make it as environment friendly as we can, because we have seen earlier how even after we make a Ganesha idol, when we actually do the Visarjan, there are a lot of environmental like kind of, you can say, practices which are not eco-friendly, because we dump it in the waters which are kind of those plaster of Paris are kind of causing the pollutions, and marine animals and aquatic animals get disrupted. So the basic idea is how to make it eco-friendly, especially in this climate change world where we are actually much more focusing on how to become a climate friend.
When you see something like this, you realize how much we all need to contribute individually and collectively towards conservation of the environment. We are in the age of the climate crisis. There's a huge climate crisis, and most of all, most of us are still unaware that there is such a huge crisis looming over our heads. But we have to start realizing, and we have to understand that each one of us needs to do a small, at least something small to make a difference. So this tree Ganesha tells us that from the next year, if all of us could have a change in thinking, and instead of the plastics and the polythene and the paints that we use to create these huge pandals, can Bhubaneswar see 100 tree Ganeshas next year? That will be absolutely splendid, and we will feel very satisfied that we have made at least some contribution towards environment pollution.
Right now we saw Bakul Foundation's Ganesh Chaturthi celebration, which was really creative and environment friendly. There was a lot of things we could learn from them, the way they made this, and personally the thing that I like was the trunk of Ganesha in the trunk of tree with a chalk. That was lovely and very creative. And the message that they were sending to everyone, that because of celebration, let's not forget that the environment, everything is given to us by the God. So when we are celebrating gods, let's celebrate the environment also. With camera person Pankaj, this is Saurav from Orissapost Live.